On today's Sexy Celebrity Brides Unveiled, Ann Summers heiress Vanessa Gold on how she found love amidst the ups and downs of the sexy knicker industry.
I have dated a stripper, but also a male model who's very handsome.
Plus, glamour model and tabloid favourite Jodie Marsh on her recent marriage to blonde hunk Matthew Peacock.
She probably regrets not hanging on to him, I would imagine. For the size of his manhood alone.
I never had a vision about getting married. I mean, I really wasn't a girly girl. I was a typical tomboy. And so I never had that vision of, my knight in shining armour and a beautiful wedding. And I just didn't have that I didn't have that vision of fairy tale wedding. And I know a lot of my friends did. They used to talk about, their wedding dress and what they'd like, who they'd like to get married to, etc. But no, I was a real tomboy, so I'd always said absolutely never would get married. I have dated a stripper, but also a male model who was very handsome. And I actually spent 8 years in a relationship quite early on, when I was quite young, with someone which was really just a boy next door type, really. So quite different ends of the scale. I knew of Nick through the boyfriend that I was going out with at the time, and he was sort of really just a face in the background of a group of people that I didn't really ever spend any time with, but just sort of knew of him. I remember him coming to my 30th birthday party, and remember saying to my friend at the time, "Oh, he's lovely." But I was with someone, he was with someone, and it was just admiration, really. But a few years later, I was in a wine bar in London with my sister. We were having a real girly night, maybe a bit tipsy, and I bumped into him. And I must admit, he was gorgeous, and I was smitten quite early on. It's so lovely to look back over the pictures again. And I don't think any of us really often sort of sit down with our wedding albums and get them out, but when you do, they just bring back so many fabulous memories. He was quite romantic, actually. I had lots of dinner dates and really romantic dinners and nice evenings together. And he's quite romantic, actually. So he did woo me very well. And Nick was so nervous.
Do take the Vanessa Julia Gold.
Do take the Vanessa Julia Gold.
To be my lawful wedded wife.
To be my lawful wedded wife.
And then the photos at the end, we had with the family, you can just see that relief on his face. We had talked about getting married, and after a little while, Nick whisked me off to a romantic weekend in Prague, which we're both really looking forward to going to. And I sort of had a hunch that this might be the weekend he was going to ask. So I had taken all my best clothes, and we'd planned some romantic dinners and nights out. So on the first night out, I got all dressed up and got myself ready, and no proposal came. And on the second night, same as, we'd been round Prague all day, and it was lots of opportunities, but no proposal the second night. And by the third night, I'm thinking, well, maybe this isn't the weekend. And when I look back now, I can now remember Nick got ready really quickly on the third night. And he was fully dressed in the bedroom, whereas I was still in my dressing gown. And at the time, I had longer hair, and I had my hair in these big yellow rollers, a bit like a sunflower, and with my makeup on. And I was just about to get dressed, and he stood in the middle of the bedroom in the hotel and suddenly blurted out, "Will you marry me?" And I know, I have to admit, I did actually laugh, because it was just I looked so ridiculous. But the fact that he could ask me to marry me when I had rollers in my hair, then maybe that's a good sign. And of course I said yes.
Vanessa, for example, is lucky to have found Nick. I think he's perfect for Vanessa. I think Nick's lucky because he has found Vanessa.
I think my family were just, at the time, quite shocked, but they adored him right from the outset, particularly, obviously my sister did and my dad did, and so they were really excited. Dad was, as you expect all dads, just let me get on with it and organise the wedding, and he was, on the day, he was absolutely fantastic. I was very lucky, in addition to Jacqueline, really sort of being the person that was organising the whole thing. We had a little team of people to help us, actually that worked with us at Ann Summers, and I'd gone to a couple of places and they just weren't right, and Lorna actually found this venue, and we both drove up there together, and I just remember walking in and bursting into tears when I arrived, because it was just beautiful and everything that I could have wanted. We purposely chose an afternoon wedding because we really wanted the castle to sort of be all lit up in the darkness of the afternoon. So we got ready at the castle. My sister and my sister-in-law, or what would be my sister-in-law, was there with her daughters, who were my bridesmaids, and to help me get ready. And we had the room upstairs where royalty had supposedly stayed in the past, and obviously champagne, goes without saying, to take away those nerves. And at the time I remember being very calm, but I think it was actually underneath the calm surface was a very, very nervous bride. And we had so many people around us. You know, there was the photographer, there was the chap actually videoing the whole day, the makeup artists, and there was a few of those because there were so many of us to get ready. There was even, Jacqueline even broke her nail sort of about 2 hours before the weddings. We even had our nail lady there sorting out the nail being repaired. So there was lots going on, really busy, a real busy time. And of course, because it was, because it's not a church wedding, the registrar, in the midst of all of that, has to come in and ask you, you know, are you sure you're getting married for the right reasons? And it was all so serious. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, you know, I don't want to be asked this question right hours before I'm due to tie the knot. But it was a great build-up. There's always a few challenges as you're getting ready. I remember the corset on my dress ripped as Jacqueline was trying to tie me into it. We came out onto the gallery that overlooks where everyone's sitting below. So all the guests that are turned up were sitting below. And my father then walks me round the gallery and down this beautiful staircase. So having my dad walk me down the staircase and into the ceremony was just a wonderful moment, and he was so proud. So I wouldn't call him an emotional man, but I know that day he was very emotional. To have him there and being part of that day was so important to me. I never realised until that moment how important it was. Nick sadly lost his father when he was much younger, and I know he would have loved his father to have been there. So we had a wonderful wedding. The ceremony went beautifully. We had all of close friends and family there, and after dinner, we then had another 100 people turn up for the actual sort of party in the evening. And one of the best pieces of advice anyone had given me was make sure you and Nick take time out during your wedding to meet up and just be together and maybe step back and have a look at the whole, you know, all your guests enjoying themselves. And we did. We actually took 2 or 3 times during the evening to meet upstairs on the gallery and overlook everybody down below enjoying the party. We were really lucky enough to have Alexander O'Neill perform live for us at the castle, and it was such a fantastic venue, and he actually came right down in the middle of the party area, and all of the guests, of course including Nick and myself, were standing around while he was singing. He was fantastic, absolutely. All the songs you'd know, and when we were all singing along, we had a fantastic time. This one woman came running up to me and said to me, oh, she said, I'm so impressed. She said, he really looks like Alexander O'Neill. And I said, but it is Alexander O'Neill. I think one of the things that both Nick and I really did right from the beginning in our relationship, and it's carried on into our marriage, and we've both found that actually it's probably we've never done this in previous relationships, is being really honest with each other. It's really always telling each other if there is a problem or if we need help or if we just want to share something, and really being there for each other. In previous relationships, we had both always kept those problems to ourselves and never really dealt with them. So in our relationship and in our marriage, we've always taken time out to really share everything with each other. And that actually, over the years, has really built up a wonderful trust. And really, I would say trust is one of the key issues in a successful relationship or marriage.
Still to come on Celebrity Brides Unveiled, glamour model and tabloid favourite Jodie Marsh on her recent marriage to blonde hunk Matthew Peacock.
When I was very, very young, I was obsessed with being married and wanted to be married. I remember my favourite dressing up outfit of all time when I was about 4 years old was a wedding dress. And according to my mum, I wore it for about 2 months solid and refused to take it off. I think my fame has been like a major factor in not finding a decent man for years, because certainly it puts men off me, because of course not everybody wants to be famous, not everybody wants to be in the limelight, and there's been times when men have just been like, I really like you, but I'm not interested in being in the papers or anything else, and therefore I don't want to be with you. But then it works the other way as well. It makes me not trust people, because I've had so many kiss and tells sold on me by kind of loser ex-boyfriends that did just want to be famous. And also, not just the kiss and tells, but I've been out with men who have only gone out with me to try and get famous themselves. Eventually, you've just got so many barriers up. It's horrible, and you're just in this role of like, all right then, well, I'm never going to find anyone decent, so I'll just carry on partying and carry on using them. Well, this is the garden we got married in. Looks very different now to what it looked on the day, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
I was dating a guy, and who is one of Matt's best friends. And while I was on a date with this guy, he introduced me to Matt. And basically, I just shook his hand, said hello, and that was it. It was literally just a hello, handshake and a hello. And the guy I was on a date with, who had introduced us, said, oh, that boy went out with Jordan. And I just thought, oh, what an idiot. That was it. Just didn't even cross my mind to give him a second glance. And of course, I was on a date with his friend, but that's never stopped me before. The very next day, he flew to Japan. And I then started filming this show for MTV, whereby I decided I wanted to go and find the one, if he existed. I thought that, stupidly, which I realise now you can't do, but I thought at the time that I could speed up fate or change fate or destiny, and that if the one existed or my soulmate was out there somewhere, I could go and find him. And one night I was sitting on the internet just messing around and went on this kind of social networking site and saw that Matt was online. I said, hello, how are you? And we started chatting online. Well, this went on for a few weeks, where whenever we were both online at the same time, we'd have a little chat on Instant Messenger. And then weeks and weeks went on of this. I was then way into the filming of my show To Find a Husband. Well, Matt suddenly turns around and says, when I get back from Japan, can I take you out? We had a gigantic marquee covering the whole garden, and that was all decked out in black, white and silver. We had a big, massive stage here, didn't we? We got married in front of this willow tree. Let's be honest here. My agent had signed a contract with MTV that stated I had to get married in September. I had two choices. I could pull out of the whole thing, of the whole show, but that would mean suing my agent, probably having MTV sue me. Well, it would mean a whole big, nasty mess, which I was prepared to do if it came to that, because if I didn't find anybody to marry, or I didn't find the one, or my soulmate, or whatever, obviously I didn't just want to marry some random that I didn't care about. So I had that choice, or I could find the one. I had to tell Matt and be honest with him, look, I'm going to be married by the time you get home from Japan. You know, you're lovely, you're very good looking, and up until then I wouldn't have given him the time of day, being who he'd been out with, but I'd kind of got over that and was talking to him, you know, on a nice, friendly level. And he said to me, well, how can I stop you getting married to somebody else? And I said, well, you only have one option, and that is to fly home and audition yourself and come and marry me yourself. And he was like, I'm 24 years old, I don't want to get married. And I said, well, that's your only choice. Like, you know, that's it. That's the way it is, I'm afraid. And anyway, he gave it some thought. We didn't speak for a while. I didn't think he was going to come. And lo and behold, he turned up. And his words to me were, I'm not going to stand by and watch you marry somebody else. I met Matt's dad before I met his mum, and his dad was absolutely amazing. He was just, I knew on the instant we met that we'd get on, and we did, and we still do, and we're just very close, me and Matt's dad. Matt's mum, I think, was more concerned when she first met me, because of course Matt had said to her, Mum, there's this girl, and I kind of want to get married to her, and if I do, it'll be in a couple of months' time. Oh, and by the way, it's Jodie Marsh. And then, so of course, you can imagine his mum, she's like, oh, what? Like, you want to get married to Jodie Marsh in 2 months' time, and you've only met her once. What are you on about? It's weird, it's this weird feeling, because looking back on it, I'm like, I hated the TV show, I hated everything about it, I hated doing everything on camera. you know, it wasn't normal or natural, it wasn't right, it was just vile, but then at the same time, without it, I wouldn't have met Matt, and we wouldn't be married. So in a way, I'm grateful to it, because I'm like, well, actually, I got the prize at the end of the day, which was the most amazing husband in the world, and that's exactly who I wanted and what I wanted, and I got it. One day, Matt arranged to take me out for a surprise, and I had no clue what it was. I just thought, oh, God knows what it was. I didn't know at all. Anyway, we ended up, he took me to some, it's called Goit Valley. It's in the Peak District. And he was like, oh, I was on this picnic. And I was like, oh, and it was really lovely and really romantic. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's so beautiful. And we sat down and we were kind of all being romantic and kissing and cuddling. And then he basically produced this jumper. It was a blue jumper. And he was like, oh, it was summer, so there were like midges that were biting us. And he was like, I'll put my jumper on and it will stop them biting your arms. And I was like, okay. So I put this blue jumper on. And then he gave me this teddy bear and he was like, oh, look, I want you to have this teddy bear. I've had it since I was born, since the day I was born. And he went, this is the most precious thing in my life. You know, I've had it since the day I was born. This is the oldest thing I own. You know, I've had it with me literally all my life. I want you to have it. It shows you, you know, how much you mean to me. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, and that was really romantic, because I love things like that. I'm a real old softie, so I was just like, oh, you know, shedding a tear over the teddy bear. And then he said, well, look, he said, you've got something old, pointed to the teddy bear. He went, you've got something borrowed and something blue, which was his jumper I was wearing. And he went, no, you just need something new, don't you? And I went, what? And then literally, like, turned around, he was down on one knee. And then, and I just burst into tears, and I was and cried and cried, and just was screaming and said yes. Me and Matt had two ceremonies when we got married. First bit, the legal bit in the club, was like the outrageous side of us. It was like the side of us that just doesn't care and that's just like, oh, let's just go and do it. And I was in a miniskirt and Matt was in ripped jeans and a shirt, and you know, we had 6 witnesses instead of 2, and one of those was a famous gangster, and you know, it was mad.
Yeah, well, this is where we got married, and we had these doors open, and the transit van parked right up towards the doors to stop the paps getting the shots, didn't it? And then, yeah, we were just sat on 2 rickety old wooden benches in the back of the van, really, and then, yeah, with Jodie's brother driving, just trying to make it a bit tongue-in-cheek, really, you know, just have a laugh with it. And then we jumped out the back, bundled out, and came into the venue. It
was just really good fun. We had like silly songs on, and really, really hyper and funny, but still quite emotional, because of course in the legal bit you still have to say the actual vows for it to be legal. So as we were saying the vows, we were holding each other's hands and just squeezing each other's hands really, really tight and looking dead into each other's eyes. You know, just staring into each other's eyes the whole time we said the vows, but like smiling, but both of us just welling up as well, just because we were so emotional and happy. Well, I still did the proper walk down the aisle, didn't I? But I kind of danced it, and I was messing around because it was like the fun bit. Yeah. So I was like dancing down the aisle, just messing about, and then got here, wasn't it? And we did the whole ceremony about here, didn't we? Yeah, well, actually, you were that side, I was that side, like that.
Were we?
Yeah, and we held hands like that. That bit was done really, really quickly. It was only like, when the whole ceremony from start to finish was about 15 minutes, and if that. And then we just signed the papers, put some more music on. Well, we put our song on. We already had a song by then, and we put our song on and signed the papers, had a laugh, did some pictures, and then ran back to my mum's in the back of the transit van, changed into dirty old tracksuit, and carried on with the planning for the wedding the following day, which was the big wedding. Then, of course, the Sunday morning came. That was the big, massive wedding, and that was the same as, I guess, any other huge, traditional, beautiful wedding. It was just amazing. I mean, I was fully relaxed come that morning, and Matt was with all his ushers. He'd stayed at our house the night before, so he was with all his ushers. They were all having a laugh. And I was just with all my bridesmaids and my mum, and we were all having our hair and makeup done, and we were being pampered, and we had about 3 different makeup artists here. We had about 6 different hairdressers, and they were all just pampering all of the girls, which was amazing. And then the ceremony took place at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, outside in a marquee. I made all the guests wear black and white, and I obviously wore red. And Matt had no clue that I was going to wear a red dress.
I was waiting to see when you were going to be there, because they kept us waiting for ages, didn't they, the bloody film crew? So I was waiting for a white dress to come past it. It was even that late on in the day, I still didn't realise until you literally walked through that gate, and it just blew me away.
To get married in my parents' house was just the most amazing thing ever, because I've grown up in this house. It's the most important place on earth to me, and it was just absolutely amazing. I honestly couldn't think of anywhere I'd rather get married than here, and really meant so much to me. And this house, I love this house and grounds more than anywhere on earth. I really do. It's just the memories from here and how much love I had growing up here. I felt so emotional on the day getting married here, because it was just like my dream wedding, my absolute perfect dream wedding. And, you know, I'm just grateful that my mum and dad said yes, and, you know, because it was a lot of work. It was really, really hard work, and I think I was just so grateful that they were like, yes, do it, you know, we want you to get married here. And I was just like, oh, it's the best day of my life. To be honest, like, every day that I'm with Matt, at some point I get annoyed that he's her ex and he's been out with her. And I can't help it, but, you know, it's like they say, it really is, the truth is you can't help who you fall in love with. And I wouldn't have chosen to fall in love with one of her exes, because I don't want to have that annoying little tie to her. I don't want it. You know, I'd much rather have fallen in love with someone that had never been anywhere near her. It's like a little twinge of annoyance. It's like a fly when you're just going, oh, go away. Like, it's like you're batting a fly away. And that's how it feels. It's like when people mention her, or when people try and question us about her, it's like, go away. She probably regrets not hanging on to him, I would imagine. Just for the size of his manhood alone.
He's tucked under. Listen, I'm going to
Even Charlie's got a bigger one than you.
No, you haven't seen it.
I have.
The way it stands now is that we've only actually been, it's been about 3-4 weeks since the cameras have stopped rolling on us. It's not been long at all. And those 3-4 weeks have been lovely without the cameras. But what I would say is that we still don't know each other properly. We are still getting to know each other. We now have all of the catching up to do that normal couples have. They would have 2, 3, 4 years of getting to know each other. Normally, under normal circumstances, we haven't had any of that. We are now going to do that starting from now. So all I can tell you is it feels right. I love him, he loves me, I want to be with him, he wants to be with me. I feel like I've done the right thing, he feels like he's done the right thing. It's been the most stress we've ever known in our lives. We've had argument after argument after argument. I've had arguments with the film crew, with MTV, with this one, that one. Nothing but arguments for 6 months. But all I can tell you is my intuition is it's right and it feels right and I love him and I'm going to make it work.
Next time on Celebrity Brides Unveiled, former Step star Lisa Scott-Lee on how she made the first move on future hubby Johnny Shentle.
After weeks and weeks of flirting, I made a little move on him on the tour bus and I snogged him.
All that and more on the next Celebrity Brides Unveiled.